Hey, what's good, comic fans? I'm Confire Rich, and we're here to talk about some Ant-Man. So I finally got to see Marvel's newest movie, Ant-Man, today, and it was really good. I've been hearing a lot on Twitter and Facebook and, different outlets that I needed to go see Ant-Man. It was a really good movie, and everybody was right. It was. I liked it. It wasn't your crazy, over-the-top action like, Avengers or Avengers 2 or something like that. This was more of a heist film, and it was really good. I enjoyed that. Now, I'm a sucker for heist films anyway. I mean, I love like your Ocean's 11 and, Heat and whatever, Italian Jobs. I like heist jobs, and this was more kind of like that. If you remember, Winter Soldier was like your spy thriller, and it's neat that Marvel's able to do that. It's like a genre within a genre. Even though this is a superhero film, you get different elements from the different movies. And this one is no different. It was a lot of fun. It has some good comedy in it, which all of Marvel's movies. I thought this might be more comedy than what I got. But it was just right. It didn't take you out of the movie or anything like that. And I really enjoyed it. So for those of you who are not familiar with Ant-Man or really know what's going on, I'm going to go ahead and set it up for you. I'm not talking about spoilers right now, but I will get it more in depth later, and I'll let you know before that comes because I'm not trying to ruin the movie for anybody. But essentially you have Hank Pym, who's the original Ant-Man, kind of back in the day, who created the suit and the formula designed to shrink him down to be able to do what it is that he does. Obviously, S.H.I.E.L.D. and everybody wanted to get their hands on the suit. There was an incident. At any rate, felt like it was too dangerous, held his technology, didn't give it to anybody, and just kind of kept it locked up. So for like 20 years, his predecessor, which is played by Corey Stoll, has been working feverishly to recreate this formula. Because he just can't do it without Hank Pym, and so that's kind of where this movie is picking up. He's been trying this whole time to get it. He's getting really close. And Hank Pym realizes, or Michael Douglas, realizes he's right there on the edge. He's about to have this technology, and he's about to turn it into a mass sling of war, sell it to the highest bidder or whatnot. And, in steps Paul Rudd. He wants to hire him to steal the suit. So that's kind of it in a nutshell, without really going into any details. That's basically the story and how it's set up. I enjoyed all the characters in this movie. I thought everybody did really well. I mean, I thought Michael Douglas was fantastic. I thought Paul Rudd was really good. Corey Stoll as a villain, he was a good villain. I would have liked to have more focus on him. I don't want to say more focus, but I like for the bad guys to get developed more than they normally are in these first movies. But this is a setup movie. It wasn't necessarily about the bad guys as much as it was about Ant-Man and setting his story up and his abilities and what he's able to do. And that's exactly what they did. But outside of all that, it was good. There was a scene in there that I'm not going to go into details on right now, but it was kind of like the turning point for it's like, oh, okay, he's the bad guy. And you're just watching the film and you're just kind of like, oh, God, like that's dirty. Like what he does is just, oh my goodness. At that point, he's bad. And you'll know it when you see it. You'll know when you see that scene. So check it out and keep a lookout for that when that finally happens. But it's good. It's a good film. I suggest you go watch it. If you're a Marvel fan, you've probably already watched it, or you're going to go watch it. If not, check it out. It's good for kids. It's fine to take kids to. It's about a 2-hour runtime, and I had a lot of fun watching it. There was just a lot of neat scenes they did with the shrinking and stuff, kind of a throwback Honey, I Shrunk the Kids at certain parts, which is just really neat. So, hey, go watch the movie. Check it out. It's worth seeing in theaters. And come back here and let me know what you think. So right now we're going to go on and we're going to talk in depth about more of the movie. So if you haven't seen the movie, stop the video, come back to the video after you've seen it, and get some of the spoilers, because that's what we're about to hit into now. We're about to talk about spoilers. Don't want to ruin it for anybody. I absolutely hate that. I don't even watch all the trailers that come out for movies just because I don't want to even see certain scenes that's in there. So anyway, this movie's starting out. It took me a while to get into it, you know, with the setup for the story, him getting out of jail, and basically just kind of setting the characters. Although I did like the beginning. You know, you had classic Michael Douglas talking smack, slamming dude's head on the table, and just bails. He's obviously so respected that even S.H.I.E.L.D. was just like, which was Tony Stark's dad, Howard, was like, don't mess with him. He's not a threat unless you make him one. And so that's why they just left him alone. I thought it was really cool. I was like, man, they just let this guy, let him alone. He had all this technology. They didn't try to steal it. They didn't try to mess with him, which is cool. That lets me know that old AntMan was crunk and buck. I mean, he was handling business if they just let him walk out like that. So there was the comedy. It wasn't that, I mean, it wasn't over the top. For whatever reason, Paul Rudd, who I thought did a really good job. I mean, I liked it. Everything was really good with him, but I wasn't like, you know, laughing a ton, except for Michael Pena. Now, Michael Pena was like one of my favorite characters in this. He cracked me up. I thought he was perfect. I thought he fit right in there. Every time I see him in a movie, I'm liking him more and more because he's just doing all these different types of roles. But I was actually cracking up at a couple of his scenes just because it was funny. It was nice to have him in there. And it was kind of at that point when he's trying to get Ant-Man to do this mission, this heist. And this is what kind of hooked me. This is at the point of the story where I got hooked, is when he's telling the story and they kind of go into this, I told my buddy, this Quentin Tarantino storytelling type when he was talking about, such and such, talk to somebody who was a maid over here, who plays softball with somebody else. And every time he's talking, they're talking in Michael Pena's voice, but the actors are mouthing the thing that's playing out. And what got me was the music, man. They had this, I don't know if it was the score, the instrumental, or what that they was playing, but it was from Jackie Brown. I remember hearing it from Jackie Brown. And I think that's why I took to it so well. I was like, man, that's kind of like Quentin Tarantino, and that's why. I like that whole little segment when he was telling the story and he kept getting sidetracked. I like that, and they did the heist, and you kind of see Paul Rudd. I wasn't sure what kind of a dude Scott Lang was in this, and he does a little parkour over a building and, you know, scales the side of this house and goes on MacGyver in there. And which was, you know, I thought was funny. I mean, I can't even find stuff in my own house. Like, let me go try to find a tape measure or some tape. I'm searching. I'm opening up drawers all over the house, and I live here. This guy was just like, oh, it's got a finger padlock. No problem. Let me open up the first kitchen drawer I need, and it's got all the stuff that I need right here. Open up one more drawer, and does a little cooking. Voila, a silicone thumbprint. I was like, well, that was very convenient that he was able to find all these goods and open the door. But, hey, what can you say? It's a superhero movie. You got to suspend the disbelief for a little bit. But, yeah, so he gets the suit, and he's on the suit. And there's nothing in there. They think they're breaking in to get, you know, gold or something or whatever. But he sees the suit. He packs it up. There's nothing else. They leave. He's in the bathroom. And, you know, talking about me getting hooked. The storytelling, the heist, I'm into it now. And then the first time that he shrinks down and uses the suit, that whole scene, I liked it. I liked the sound effects. I liked the visuals. I thought it was awesome with the water coming down. Like, it was kind of a rush. When he hit the ground, it was awesome because when he fell off the tub and he smacked the tile and it broke, like, that sound was cool because it wasn't like your normal Iron Man, like, hitting the ground. It was just kind of like a tink. But then it cracked everywhere. I liked it. I liked him running through the club and, you know, falling. And he was like falling through floors and stuff. I didn't see he'd hit something one time and kind of crashed through it. And that whole scene, like at that point, I was like, I'm into this movie. I like it. I want to see more of that. And at that point, that's really all I kind of cared about. I wanted to see Ant-Man, you know, keep shrinking and seeing all these different environments that he could get in. Gets into jail, and this is the part I didn't really understand, and this is one of the things I didn't I didn't like about it, because he's going to turn the suit back and he comes out and the cops are there. And so they arrest him. And then Hank Pym, we find out, he lets him get the suit. So Hank Pym goes in there, and it's his house. It's Hank Pym's house that he broke into in the first place, and he's in jail for that. And I couldn't understand why Hank Pym couldn't just come in and be like, guys, there was a misunderstanding. My daughter called him. She thought it was something, no big deal. I know him, and I sent him over there to go into, like, they could have realistically just could have done without that whole cop scene trying to chase him down and stuff like that. If Hank Pym really wanted to get him out of jail, all he had to do was go in there and say, yeah, he wasn't stealing from me, misunderstanding, and grab him and go. And on that note, when he finally breaks out of jail, they sent the whole freaking police squad after him. I mean, they sent like every cop. I was like, the guy broke in somewhere. Like, it was just a B&E. Like, I couldn't understand. I know he'd been in jail before, and I know that guy's, dating his ex-wife and stuff like that. But still, I thought it was a little over the top. There's like, okay, here's a guy who did a breaking and entering. He escapes, and then they just try to shut down a 5-block radius for this guy. 5 blocks, and just sent the whole police force out to shut him down. I could have done without that. I really could have done without her husband, the cop. The cop that was dating his wife. I could have done without him. He did a good job, but the way they kept bringing him into the movie, I was like, that was such a waste of stupid. They're not going to spend that much time on a guy who just broke into somebody's house. I don't even know what city this takes place in, but that's not a top priority for them. And they was using all these resources trying to figure out. It's just, I didn't care for that. I didn't care for that at all. So anyway, you got Scott. He's training. I like the little, training montage and him learning how to talk to the ants. I found very interesting because I was curious about that. I was like, just because he can get small, ants respond to him. They explained that pretty well. They also explained, and I was thankful for, the same question that everybody talks about is, where are the Avengers? And they answered that beautifully. Hank Pym was like, there's no way I'm going to S.H.I.E.L.D. I'm not going to the Avengers. I wouldn't let a Stark get his hands on it before, and I dang sure ain't going to let it happen now. Plus, they're probably dropping a city on somebody, which I thought was funny. Kind of goes back to Avengers 2. Or not kinda, goes back to Avengers 2. Yeah, I like that. I like that they answer that question about the Avengers, because it's something that always comes up. I don't know why. People need to understand that each character is going to have their own standalone. The Avengers are busy doing Avengers stuff, or this superhero's doing their own thing. This is about Ant-Man. We don't need everybody in all these movies. But anyway, they answered it. He didn't want their help. Whether they had more stuff going on or not, he didn't even want their help. With that being said, about the Avengers, they do introduce Falcon. I didn't want to see that in the trailer. It come on a YouTube video and it happened before I knew it was happening. I wish I had not seen that. I just didn't. That would have been a nice surprise for me. But they go to the Avengers facility, and there's Falcon, and they kind of get in a little fight. And it was good. It was an interesting fight. It kind of lets you know what Ant-Man could really do, because up until that point, he was just running around with ants and jumping through keyholes and, making them spin dimes and pennies and stuff. And it was really interesting. But to see him go up against an Avenger was good. I didn't know Falcon had these cool little glasses that let him zoom in, and had a nice little fight there. And I find it interesting that they did use him at the end of Avengers. They've kind of introduced this new wave of Avengers, because they're going to eventually have to start phasing out Captain America and Iron Man and Thor and introduce the new heroes. And I think they did that really well in this with Falcon, and having him come in and fight and set him up. So I like that scene. It was interesting. Now he's going on to get this suit. And Corey Stahl, I thought did really good. And how crazy was it when he zapped that dude? That was the scene I was talking about earlier, when it was like, this dude's bad. He picked up, I thought it was a taser. I thought it was like, okay, he don't like him, he's going to tase him. I don't hide him, threaten him. Wasn't sure what he was going to do. And when he zapped him, he turned to a goo, like vaporized, and the only thing was left was like a little bit of goo. I was like, holy moly, that's wrong, man. The guy didn't even, all he said was, I don't like it. Man, he just acted. Anyway, the thing I don't like about these newer, when you're setting up a new character, is you can't really focus on the villain. You have to focus on, you know, Scott Lang. You're focused on him and him being Ant-Man. And they didn't give enough. They didn't get enough to Yellow Jacket, who ends up being Darren Cross. They didn't give enough to Cross. You have Scott Lang, who's been training. He's training with a suit that we know works. And they're trying to break into this facility, and he's learning how to talk to the ants, and he's learning how to shrink and get big all of a sudden, and just get used to, you know, shrinking. I mean, and his abilities and what he's able to do. And then when he goes and he's fighting, and all of a sudden, Cross is like, I'm going to jump in my suit, I'm going to activate it, and now I can fight. And it's just because of runtime. I mean, you can't do it, and I've just grown to accept that that's going to happen, but it still doesn't bother me because it doesn't make it as climactic. It's like, oh yeah, he hasn't been in the suit one time. He probably hasn't been doing any fighting at all whatsoever because he's been spending every waking moment trying to figure out how to shrink this guy. But now he's in the middle of a helicopter. Ant-Man's fighting him, running all over the place. His guys are getting thrown out of the plane or whatever's going on. And next thing you know, you got the door open and Darren Cross is like, here's my suit, which happens to be tiny, by the way. Literally tiny in a thing. And then all of a sudden it's like, he's got it on. This is the quickest suit to put on. I can't even get out of bed and get dressed that fast. And this guy opens up this titanium suit, like an Iron Man suit, and puts it on in a matter of seconds. And now he can fight and fight with Ant-Man. Again, for the runtime, but that's a negative that I have towards it. Same thing that happened in Iron Man. I love Iron Man. It's one of my favorite Marvel movies. But he had the same thing with Obadiah. Tony Stark, world's smartest man, apparently built this suit and spent half the movie trying to figure out how to make it work. And then Obadiah has some scientists like throw a suit together. He puts this thing in the middle. And next thing you know, Obadiah's fighting with no problem whatsoever. Don't really like that. But again, when you're setting up a new character, that's just what you have to do. There's not enough time to fully develop it. So that's what you get. But the scenes were good. The fight scenes were really good. I think I liked the fight scenes at first. They showed so many fight scenes in the trailer, which is another complaint I had. You saw a lot of the cool fight scenes in the trailer, so when they happened in the movie, you was kind of underwhelmed a little bit. The whole train scene, like, you got to see a lot of that, but it was still really cool. It was cool. I liked it. They did a fantastic job with them being able to shrink and fight and go back and forth. Another thing I got a question about is they've been going on and on. You remember the Iron Mans, they were fighting about getting his suit. They want his suit. And then Cross builds a suit that's made out of titanium. So probably bulletproof. I would think it's bulletproof. It's got lasers shooting out. He can't shrink himself, but he still has a suit. Like, I don't understand why he's like, he could just sell his suit. I know he wanted a shrinking thing, but I thought about that after the movie. I was like, that suit's pretty bad A by itself. Without the fact of being able to shrink. I mean, could you imagine walking around with a creepy little voice when he was talking to that girl? Man, I was creeped out when he was talking to her. He was like, do I look like a bad guy? And I was like, man, you look pretty freaky right now. But that's it. Those are really the only problems I have with the movie is the fact that, yeah, that whole deal with the cops trying to chase him and trying to arrest Scott, Hank Pym, whatever. Oh, how cool is that tank scene? Did anybody see that coming? I saw it coming the second time I saw that tank. When I first saw it in the house, I was like, that was weird. That was a really quick shot of a tank on a keychain. I didn't really understand his point. But then when they showed it that second time, I was like, oh, that's a real tank. And he's going to explode it, make it big again, and they're going to drive out of the building. I mean, like I said, as soon as I saw that keychain, I was like, that's exactly what's going to happen. I really liked Evangeline Lilly in this. I'm sorry I didn't get to talk about her, but man, she was spunky and, you know, she was fighting and she desperately wants to put on that suit. And I love the post-credit scene where it was just kind of like we got you a suit. Let's finish building it. Obviously, she's going to come back into it, and it's nice. I like this second wave of Avengers that they're setting up, and they did it more with the second post-credit scene. Hopefully, you stayed all the way to the end and saw that, which was basically Falcon and Captain America doing something to somebody that they can't call Stark, and they're like, I know a guy. I liked it. I like this. I like this movie. I didn't walk out of the movie with just like, oh, this is the most amazing movie ever in the history of movies. It was good. It wasn't overly fantastic. It definitely wasn't bad. I enjoyed it. I suggest y'all go see it. Hopefully, if you're watching this, you've already seen it. But yeah, I'm excited for more to come. I liked the post-credit scenes. But that's it. Over and all, I thought it was an excellent movie. I hope y'all enjoyed it. Hey, like, comment, subscribe. Let me know what you think. You know, what did you think about the movie? Was there anything that y'all had problems with? Did you think it was awesome, the best movie ever? Or it was just kind of, whatever. But that's all I got for you. Until next time, I'm out.